This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Hcedc Type B board meeting open on March the 22nd, 2023 at 6:05 p.m. And we do have a quorum present. Do we have any citizens' participation or comments? Okay, none at this time. We'll move to item 3, items of community interest. On Monday, April 3rd, the opening of the Hcedc Parkway and intermodal ribbon cutting will take place from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Big accomplishment for the city. On Saturday, May 6, 2023, elections will take place from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The city will hold a general election for the purpose of electing mayor, council member place 2, council member place 4. The May 6 ballot will also have a City of Hcedc special election, Proposition A, concerning and authorizing the city to sell certain development dedicated parkland. If approved by Hcedc voters, the city will be authorized to enter into negotiations with Northwest Independent School District for the purchase of the property. The property is needed by NISD for construction of a public elementary school to serve the city of Hcedc's children from subdivisions in this area, with portions of the property to be used for a nature teaching and remain accessible to the public for their enjoyment. This property is located along the north side of Blue Mound Road East, near the intersection of Blue Mound Road East and Harmon Road, and being 24.1 acres. I'd like to make note that the last day to register to vote is Saturday, or in the election, Saturday, May 6, 2023, is April 6, 2023. Please visit votertexas.gov to check registration status and to register to vote. Early voting begins Monday, April 24th and goes through Tuesday, May 2nd. Please visit hcedc.org to view hours and location. Item number 3.3, Hcedc is hiring. The city is still looking for positions of Water Maintenance Worker 1, Water Maintenance Worker 2. Please check the website at hcedc.org to apply.
Chairman Wertz, I'd like to add one other thing to the 3.1, the ribbon cutting.
Yes.
To make sure everybody comes out and participates in that. It's a big thing for the city, so you're all invited to come out.
Okay, thank you.
Where exactly will the ribbon cutting be?
I believe it's going to be at the intersection of Intermodal and Hcedc Parkway, right there at the corner. It'll be where all the balloons are and streamers.
Thank you. All right. Item number 4, consent agenda. Approval for the 2023 financial reports. We have any discussion, any comments on that report?
Madam President, I do have a question. Where are the approval of the minutes from our last meeting?
The secretary has been out for about 2 weeks that takes notes for that meeting. So she's, what's that? That's why Emily's here, taking her place, and that's the reason why she's been out of pocket. She's not the one that's sick; it's her husband. He's been in the hospital.
So I would take it that we would probably approve those minutes at the next meeting when it's caught up?
That would be correct.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the February 23 financial reports.
Can we have a motion? Do we have a second? I second. Take a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. None opposed. Okay, item number 5, discuss, consider, and act regarding all properties and property management reports. Mr. Swanky?
Yeah, we want to start off by skipping the first two and going to the third one, the 120. Ms. Worth asked for some information concerning the two pieces of property that we have rentals going on with, and this was the first one, which is the 120 Main Street, which is the single-family house that's across the street. Can you hear me now? Something. Can you hear me now? Okay. The first one is 120 Main Street, and it is the single-family house that's approximately catty corner from where we're sitting right now, and it's being rented at a month-to-month basis, and so there is a notice provision in this if we do sell the property that we can give them a 30-day notice, and we'll have to vacate the property, but it's written into the contract, for you to look at. The second piece of property that we want to address is 201 North Highway 156.
Would be, yeah, let me do it there. Can you hear me? All right, go to your folder. First one is, there was, first off, what I guess led to looking into this was observation was made, apparently part of the roof blew off. And it looks maybe, in fact, that is what happened. But I've gotten different stories. It said it looked like part of the roof blew off. And so I and the building inspector went over yesterday just take a look. And in fact, because I had heard stories and I passed on a couple of them, which was that a permit was pulled and that project was never finished out. Well, that's partially true, but it did not involve the roof. But so in fact, that part of the roof did blow off. Now, what we're still hunting for, that is the outdoor seating area. That was not part of the original building when it was originally leased in 2010, as I understand. I need to qualify that. And we're looking for documents to verify as such. And that was an addition onto that building. But apparently, that addition was never filed with our insurance company because our assets are filed very specifically. And so therefore, our insurance will not cover that because it was never filed. But we are looking for the paper documents to verify all of that. That's the story as I understand it today. Now, looking into this, doing a server search, these documents I did find. This is a permit that was pulled in 2020, and underneath the covered area, which would be on page right, there's a small room, 9 foot by 12 foot, 9 foot 8 inches by 12 foot, and the permit was pulled to build that, I believe, a drink server area for that outdoor seating. We did see that today, and that never was finished. In fact, the sheetrock is laying out there, and it's just the frame is up. So this permit has expired. We'll have to notify them of that. We'll have to pull another one. Nonetheless, so that's the status of the permit type question that was about. The next one is some documents that I came across that I had not seen before. The first one is titled Type B EDC Communication, January 25, 2017. Well, what this document, in this binder, you'll have that cover page, you'll have an amendment to the commercial lease as a result of this cover page, and then here you have the Tarrant Appraisal District backup files to substantiate the claim of the cover page. Cover page says, oh, well, the restaurant owner has not paid property taxes and they're $15,000 in arrears. We need to do something about this. And so the Economic Development Director at that time proposed to the EDC, said, well, that'd be an imposition on the company to pay their back property taxes. So EDC, I propose that you pay it. And also we should modify the contract that we will pay the property taxes going forward. You being the EDC. So in fact, that's what happened. So there's the proposal. This was the modification to the contract in place at that time. And these are all the TAD documents supporting the in-rear payments. This next document. This document is a compilation of all the contracts, including the amendments, in one document. Starts with the original and goes to what is the most current. And that concludes that presentation, unless you have any questions.
Isn't it customary that the property owner pay property tax?
Well, it's customary, but it's, you can make an agreement with the landlord to pay or not to pay. But I brought these forward because the board was wanting to know the status of these leases and other documents associated with it.
So was the city ever made whole for the property tax that we covered?
No, the amendment EDC board agreed to pay all the property tax in the arrears and also to pay all future property taxes. So currently, EDC board pays all property taxes.
And was the lease terms adjusted to cover some of that cost?
Not to my knowledge.
Right, the rental rate.
Well, let's see. I do know the term for rental, the original rate started out with, let's take a look. I'm looking in this set right here, the original set. So I'm just turning through there, and I think it's highlighted. Maybe I saw what the rate would be. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Is this not it right here on the front page?
The
Monthly
rental rate
rates
as
are as
follows.
follows.
7 to 30 months.
Started at $850 and went up.
Very good. That's right. You are correct.
And
So
now,
it
now we're up
escalated
to $1,400
over time.
currently.
And then 2017, I do recall seeing in here, in 2017, it was changed to 1,400. Maybe that's why they changed this, to help cover the tax rate. Let me find that. The amendment to the commercial lease near the very back. Amendment to the commercial lease is the very back. It starts at 1, 2, 3, the fourth page from the very back. And here is, it establishes it's $1,400 a month effective February 2017. Also under taxes, about the fourth line up, it says leaser shall pay all property taxes. So that was an amendment. But and that probably explains why the increase in the
So did we make up that $15,285.18?
I don't know. I've done that. No, I have not done that math at all.
Gary, I noticed, Mayor, I noticed on page 2, under paragraph 8, it says repairs and maintenance, and it says lessee shall, throughout the term of the lease and any extension, at its own expense and risk, maintain the leased property, leased premises, and all improvement in good order, including but not making repairs and replacements required by the section. I don't know would be applicable to the roof. Do you have any idea
Applicable to what?
if that would actually cover the roof as well, if it was their responsibility?
It possibly could. There again, I have to have an attorney to look at these things to determine that. It may be, I have not read the contract and all the amendments word for word. In fact, I just found these documents today. And so I can't answer that question. we can certainly ask that question. But if we were covered by insurance, we would, but evidently we cannot because it was not listed in our asset, that part of the roof, since it was an expansion of the original building. But we're going to do a further search to find documents, and even, with regard to that property, okay, what was the definition of the roof area? Maybe it was in fact covered. So there's questions we don't know answers to right now. We wanted to get to you the information that we do have. Mr. Swinky?
One thing that covers all the properties, we're in the process of looking at, we had people last year mow our lots and to keep them all trimmed up, and we're looking at those people, and we're going to get bids and see if they are still in the ballpark. If not, then we will, search elsewhere. But we're in the process of doing that, right, before it gets too tall.
I do want to make one of is building to notify it that building inspector yeah, Mike.
One other note that concerns all the properties that we're looking at is that the appraisals will be done by the end of next week. And so that is coming real soon. When he started, he told us it'd take 45 days from the day he got a signed contract. With the signed contract was February 22nd. After we went through here, we took it to the city council, and then the mayor signed it. So we're well within that time frame. So he's not in the rears on it. It's just that that it's going to be end of next week. Also, one of the things he ran into on doing this, he ran into COVID. So he's had that for a few days, and he's got actually 5 more days to wear a mask and try to stay away from everybody.
Mr.
Yes.
Swanky, can you refresh my memory on specifically which properties he is actually appraising?
Yes, I can. He's appraising all the properties except the Hurley Street parking lot. So he's doing 102 West Port Parkway, 105 Highway 156, 120 Main Street, 201 Highway 156 North, and 210 Main Street.
But that's 5 properties.
Yes.
Victoria got 2 properties on Westport Parkway. That's the house. My side. Or, and the 5th one is strip of land up next to the church. That's 5.
When the reports are finished, could he come and present the information to us?
I can ask him to do that.
At an additional fee.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Oh, seriously?
Yes. Thank you. Get the report. Send them to you. Don't wait for a meeting. Report.
when the reports are available then, and we receive them, if we have any questions, do we just get back to you?
Yes, just get back with me and we'll get them addressed.
Okay, if we don't have any other information to discuss on the rest of the properties, I'd like to bring up the Hurley Street parking lot project.
Yes, I would like to give you a small presentation, if I could, on the process and where we're at and what it's all about. So if I could get Stephen to release there we go. And I'm going to be pointing at the screen, so I won't be able to see my pointer on your screen, but if you look at the back, try not to body's eye. This is a flow chart, how the forward all the way into the project. Start over there at the top, you have an idea. If I come up with an idea, of the board members, the staff, somebody from the public. At any point, the project stop after the call. You have the board say, nope, that project stop. Pull this up here if you can hear me better. And then if you say, yeah, let's take a look at it, what's it going to cost us? And so it goes to the next box. You tell the engineer, let's take a look at it and give us a preliminary cost estimate. It might be something out of our framework, but then again, it may not be. It's maybe something that we can handle within our budget. And after that comes back, you can stop there. It may be so high that you can say, no, we don't want to do it. Or, yeah, that sounds like a reasonable project. The next box is this board takes action. And they pass it on to the city council. Say, this is a project we'd like to take on. And here's the cost. We have the cost estimate. And then the city council looks at it. And they say, that's something that we think the HCEDC board should take on. Or they could put a stop to it and say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want the board to spend money on that project. After that, the project's released to do this final step in this first column, which is to do the project engineering. And all these things can be stopped after they're done. I like to use the example on any of these boards. After you make the decision to go forward, you're going down a freeway, you don't step off the car or whatever vehicle you're in the middle of a step. You finish that step. But what you can do after this goes right up to here, the project construction documents, they're generated. And that's where we're at right now. The project document, except for crossing a few T's and I's, it's done. And I've got a copy of most of the sheets of it. And the engineering portion is practically done. And at that point, you can make two decisions. You can say, let's go out to bid, which would go over to this column. Or you can say, the decision can be made not to, and then you just shelf the project, and it goes up here in this column. It's shelved. It's there. If you ever want to go back to it, you haven't started a project, and then a few weeks left in it, cut it off. Well, if you go back and start it over again, you start off at the beginning, and then you have to go all the way through the process, even going back to the city council if you decide to kill a project. But if you come back over here, that's not the end of it. The project can go to bid, and the bids are reviewed. At that point, you might say, the decision is not to award. It may be too high. It may be way out of line. So if that's the case, you can just shelf it again. But if it's in line, then you start moving down the process here until finally you get to the end of the project. Because once the project is awarded, then you're committed to doing the project. Is there any questions on this flow chart? The project that we're looking at is this little bitty rectangle right here. And I want to preface this next few slides by saying that the Mai Tai restaurant, Mr. Jim's, the feed store, the city hall, they were all constructed under a whole different set of rules than what we have right now, especially setbacks. And I took a real close look at what the setbacks are that we have for that area. If you're adjacent to an arterial road, you have a 30-foot setback, and that'd be State Highway 156. It's 30 foot. Side yard next to Hurley is 20 foot. Next to Mr. Jim's is 20 foot. And the rear, adjacent to single-family residential zoned lot, is 50. And I want to go back here. All this area behind all these lots, you have a 50-foot setback along all those lots. So when you tie all those things together and you actually map it up, that's the remaining space that you have. You have a building pad of 378 square feet, less than a two-car garage. Most two-car garage are in the 500 to 600 square feet, and so it's a tiny, tiny building. If you're to market this piece of property, that's what you could be marketing, a 378 square foot building. It's not very big. And this is just sort of reference, like I mentioned earlier. This is Mr. Jim's, Mai Tai, a completely set of different rules than what we have right now. They don't meet a lot of the standards. They meet like the side yards, but they don't meet the rear 50 foot, like right here, and then Mai Tai up here. They don't meet. But if somebody were to come and build today, those are the standards that we'd be looking.
With regard to the classified, they're not like they. There's no requirement for them that it already existed when the standards changed, so they're fine. They stay as they are. Unless one of them will go to under a reconstruction in excess of 50%, then there's some rules that come into play with regard to that. But, we wouldn't be marketing that building, but anyone who buys that property or who would be interested in the property, because they do it all the time, we get inquiries, and especially when it was buildings here in Oak Town, I say maybe a year ago, they go, well, I'm interested in buying that lot, maybe putting this particular business in. And, okay, what are your requirements? And Morris would go through that, and they go, oh, my God, that's not big enough. I can't put a big enough building on here. So you're not marketing the building, you're just offering the property, but that buyer is going to go through this exercise and discover the biggest building he could put on is 378 square feet.
I'm sorry, can I ask another question? Sorry to keep bothering you. So the lot is the lot, but it's according to all of the restrictions code is what brings it down to 300 square feet.
That's correct.
So all the land is still there,
Mm-hmm.
so the people could use it for parking or whatever, except the building itself can only be 300 square feet. Did I understand that right?
That would be correct. You know, you could actually come in here and build enough parking to support that, and it might be 1 or 2 spaces. You know, that would be an easy deal to do. But, you know, as far as somebody wanting to build a restaurant, most restaurants, you know, if that's the use that wants to, you know, go in there, you're going to be looking at more than 1,000 square feet to, you know, 2,000 square feet, you know, for a restaurant. Then you'll need the parking to support that. And, you know, when we laid out our parking area, you can only get 16 parking spaces on this. And we've looked at several different ways to lay it out. And so from a viable standpoint for marketing as a commercial tract, it's very limited.
I was just wondering, like a small, like a donut shop or a nail salon or something. I have no idea how large the place is, but if you were to have something small or raw, coffee shop, I was wanting to see something small like that business. the space around the building would only allow 6 parking.
Yeah, I'm going to show you the next slide. This is one of the site plan out of the construction plans. And you can see how the traffic, you're not going to get a driveway off of FM or State Highway 156. You're just not going to. So it has to have the commercial traffic coming off of Hurley Drive, off a residential, I consider it a residential street, to get into it, to get away from the corner so that you could have ingress and egress out of it pretty good. But if you maximize just the parking on that, you know, you only have 16 spaces because the property line is this line extended right here, and it comes around like this. So it's a really tight spot, it really is. And, you know, if there's another use that comes in here, we're going to have all kinds of other standards too. There'll be landscaping they'll have to do, and it'll be problematic for them.
But it's doable. As Kathy said, like a nail salon or a donut store, even a, it can be doable as not.
It's doable. It would be general commercial, or anything under general commercial. Only if this outside wall is 387 square. Some of you might have closets. So it's a tiny spot. I'm gonna give a record. I know this is a lot to take in. And if you take time to think about it, just table this item and bring it up on the next agenda. So in effect, you're not, if you kill the project, if you make a formal move, you know, this thing is dead. And if you ever come, you know, and must come, if you should decide, well, it looks like probably the only thing we can do is build a parking lot, then you'll have to start that process all over and go through the city council and all that business. If you just table it, come back and meet on it again, and take no action towards going to bidding. That's all you have to do. It stays alive for however long you want it, until you decide what you want to do. You could, as an option is, along with that, is to make a motion to have an appraisal done of the property. Get this appraiser to appraise that property. Now that's got to go to city council. They'll approve that. They would have no reason not to. And to get an assessment on that, and then put that out on the, marketplace as well, and see if you get any response, anyone interested in what inquiry that may come. And then you can still make that decision later. Well, you know what? No one's interested, or yes, someone is interested. Someone can build a 370 square foot sandwich shop or nail salon, whatever the case may be. I don't know. Or if there's no takers in a certain period, in some period of time, you can go, what? Okay, maybe the best use is a parking lot. Then you can just pick up where you have left off. Pull the plans off the shelf, go have them bid. And then you still have another opportunity to shut it down. I just wanted to finish the train of thought.
Okay, so it appears
Yes.
that someone is trying to change this project, and this has not been discussed before. It sounded like you're making a presentation because the board asked you to consider doing something besides a parking lot there, but that has not come through this board. I mean, we voted that we wanted a parking lot there. We supported it's parking for the trailhead. It's the end of our walking trail. Right now, no one can park at either end of our parking trail and walk from one end to the other. This is perfect for that. It's also going to support the businesses downtown with, 16 spaces is not a lot, but it's 16 more spaces. So I don't even know why. It sounds like we're someone has asked that we reconsider this, and I'm baffled about how this came about since it was not discussed.
I asked for it to be reconsidered. First of all, I think $185,000 to build a parking lot when no one's going to park in that area, unlikely, very unlikely, because we have a park just 2-3 blocks away with all kinds of parking spots if they want to walk the trails. So I thought that this was not a good use of the city's funds. So I asked for it to be reconsidered, and I still think we ought to look at all options before we make any decisions to move forward. So
we
I'm in
did,
favor of-
Mrs. Wertz. We did look at options for many months. And there's no parking downtown except at the park, and it's not convenient to park at the park and then come to the trailhead. This is a perfect place for people to park and walk the trail, and people will use it. People will come. I mean, that's not just
I beg the pardon. I would challenge you. I would challenge you on that because I haven't seen anyone park anywhere around that general area and walk the trails. I walk the trails almost every day. I come to the park. People don't walk those trails like they do when they come to the park. So I challenge you on that. And I want to suggest we table this project until we learn more information about what the commercial value is of the property. I would also like to see the new rules and when they came into place of the building permits and how and when that was established. I'd also like to reconsider if we do move forward for a parking lot, that we reconsider doing different things about the cost. In other words, we're putting in a parking area and a road behind the firehouse station with what kind of sill treatment is it?
That was refuse material when they ground up the road in Hcedc Park.
Right.
It was all put behind the fire station, and then Tarrant County is coming in to do what they call a chip seal.
Yes.
And so that's what that was.
Right. And that's a less expensive way of putting in a parking lot. I don't think the
board asked if we could get an exception, and we were told no, because this is a premier area of the city. We want to keep standards high for all the stuff that comes in here. So we did approach that because we talked about an asphalt parking lot, just something to let people get on the trail at the top of the trailhead and follow through.
Well, then, obviously, there are new board members here that were not a part of what the previous conversations were. So I just think it's in our best interest to explore all different options available to us, whether it be evaluated with an appraisal and have it looked at for a commercial use, which I think would be of better interest to the city than to have a parking lot that's going to sit idle many, many hours of the day and not used.
Point of order.
I'd like to make a motion to table.
Point of order. This project has already been approved by this board. In order to reconsider it, it would have to have a motion made to unapprove the project and take it back to the consideration stage. Am I correct or incorrect in that?
No, you have the ability to table this item. You have the ability to make a motion to shelve the plans and not go to bid so you can explore other options. You're not required to take it back. I mean, you can stop right here.
We could, but we have not voted to do that.
Pardon?
We could stop here, but we have not voted to do that.
Oh, you're going to have to vote. Oh, you're absolutely correct. You have got to vote, and I think
I was gonna
Board
make,
Member
I was
Parker
gonna,
was about to make, had the floor to make a motion.
I'm going to make a motion to table the Hurley Street parking lot project until we get some more information regarding what Kitty was, Ms. Work was saying about the setback. See if there's any retail interest in the project.
You'll need to repeat that motion and ask for a second.
Have a motion for table project, so we have more information that defines the setback and those place and that side of that of that also what first do with the property side self. That's why we could.
Excuse me, you can only repeat the motion.
Okay.
Right,
Well, can I continue my motion?
no, wait a minute. You made a motion, the chairman was in the midst of repeating that, so I would, Chairman, I would restate the motion that was made.
And the motion is pause to look other options of what first.
Now, at this point in time, anyone can ask to the motioner to amend their motion. Even the chairman, since the chairman is a voting member. Yes, you're correct. So on the main motion, you would need a second, and then an amendment can be proposed.
Okay, so need a second.
No, the chairman needs to call, is there a second?
I second. the motion.
Point of discussion. What would the alternative be if this does not pass tonight? Then is this coming before us to vote to go forward with the project? Is that why it's on here? If we do not table, if we take no action,
Okay.
I don't see, there's not any contract information here. How could we approve?
Okay, your next step would be, okay, the board adopted this entire project with the intent to build a parking lot. And so you're going through different phases. Right, this phase you're in, you have completed the engineering plans. At any point along the line, the board can say, time out. Or they can say, no, we're going to scrap this thing altogether.
So if we don't table it, nothing happens. The project just
If
continues
you don't
moving
table
forward.
it, it'll go to bid. Then you have another opportunity.
As chairman, I'd like to ask if the motion can be amended to also add the property be evaluated by the appraiser to determine what the value of the property is. Would you amend your?
You would need to recognize that you would or would not amend your motion to that.
So I would approve for my motion to be
Amended.
amended.
The seconder would have to approve as well.
I approve this.
Point of discussion. I think that there needs to be an amount included in this amendment that includes the amount of the cost of the appraisal. And it sounds to me like you said this would need to go back to the city council. So
You're
that should
correct.
also be a second amendment that has to be approved. And these amendments have to be voted on before it gets up to the first amendment.
I would recommend, you don't need to include your amendment to go to city council. That's an automatic process. But it would be recommended to include an amount up to $3,000. I know that will cover this appraisal for that property. So up to an amount of $3,000 towards the appraisal of this property. And that way, all of that can go as a package to the council. So the amendment's already been amended, and the second has agreed. So right now, you've got the appraisal. It's just someone needs to offer to amend the amendment to the motioner. Would you add the amount of money, $3,000, to your amendment for the appraisal?
Then I would ask the board member if you would amend your motion to include a $3,000 limit for the appraisal.
I approve for a motion to amend my amendment for appraisal up to $3,000.
Second needs to agree.
And I second the motion on the table for appraisal and the $3,000.
And I would probably restate the entire motion now, all of it.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to table the Hurley Street parking lot project to evaluate different business opportunities, commercial, and have the property appraised with a limit up to $3,000 for the appraisal, and to look at other commercial uses.
Okay, you had the appraisal. Did you have the amount of money? Okay.
I'd like to make a point of discussion. Okay, so if this motion does not pass, according to our EDC update, it says construction plans for Hurley Street parking lot will be completed by end of March 2023. So does that mean by the end of this month, the construction plans will be completed and it will go to bid before our next meeting? Or does that mean it has to wait till our next meeting to go to bid?
No, if the motion does not pass tonight, then it will go on to bid.
Okay. And then at that point, we can expect that at a future meeting, we will see bids with giving us
Correct.
more information as to how much the actual cost would be.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Wasn't that done already? Because how did we get a cost of 100 and?
Our engineers estimated that cost. They keep all that data on projects, and it's current data, and they go in and they study it, and they go, okay, based on current conditions, and the price of the work and the materials, it should be inclusive of their engineering time, $185,000. Understand, that 185 is for the entire project, which includes surveying, engineering, reviewing the bids, and the construction of the project. It's like, the actual construction materials and the time to build that is going to be much less than 185,000, because that was the total project budget to cover all activity.
When was that done?
As what done?
That as
The bid has not been done.
no, the engineer. When did he?
At the end of this week, as I understand, they will be finished.
When was?
That may be out there. Generally, I think we give them about 30 days to reply.
She's asking when the estimate for
Right.
yes.
When did we get that estimate?
Yes.
Well, that was probably less than a year ago. Yes, it was less than a year ago. And then the project started moving forward.
I asked a
Another point
question.
of discussion is the engineering portion. We've already paid some of that for them to come up with this estimate. Yes, we pretty much paid the engineering fees for the project. All that's left is the construction.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
My question, if I can go back on I'd like a little more definition on the actual parking lot. Is that the perimeter boundaries? Was it going to be from, I realized that you were going over and reviewing the code on how many feet from different buildings and residential, but with the parking lot, does it wipe all that out? Is the parking lot from boundary to boundary?
The park, there are.
In lieu of, 20-foot setback that would normally count, or 50-foot setback, what was that setback in relation with a parking? That now 5 feet?
5 feet.
And as I recall, the only restriction outside of that 5-foot limit that we were told about was that the fencing that went at on the residential side of the parking lot had to meet certain standards more so than the rest of the parking lot did. And that was some additional expense.
That is correct. When you're adjacent to a residential zone piece of property, you have to build a fence. There are no fences required along Hurley Street or between Mr. Jim's and the parking lot.
And I would just like to add, in case I'm realizing that maybe some board members weren't on the board at that time, but when this was discussed prior, not only was it beneficial being at the start of the trailhead, but also at the time Mai Tai was in need of more parking. And so this was going to be another benefit to add parking to our business.
But Mai Tai doesn't even offer dining service. It's all strictly to go.
I was just going to ask if we could call for the vote.
Do we have any further discussion? Okay, I'd like to call for a vote. Those in favor? Those opposed?
Okay, you need to announce the motion fails.
Motion failed 4-3.
We
As
could get
the
a bunch
chair,
of
you
bids,
can
Morris.
have, if anybody else can make a different motion on this topic, or you can move on to the next item.
Yeah, there's just several things that I want to mention. And once again, I want to reiterate that everybody's invited to the L. That this will be a big thing for the city. And in my opinion, it'll actually help spur on economic development in the city. It'll be a major way in, and it won't tie up all the Westport Parkway entrance, but we'll have another entrance into the city where we could have commercial activity along. We've been getting a lot of interest all over the city with people that are looking at doing different projects. Our DRC meetings, which we have twice a month, and the second one in each month, we invite people in that have projects, and we usually have a full boat of agenda items. Yesterday we started at 9 o'clock, and some of us got out around 4:30, which everybody here. So we had quite a bit of things going on, but there's a lot of activity in Hazlet, and the things that Hazlet has a bright future, really does.
I would like to make a comment. So a few months back, we rezoned Old Town is pure residential. Well, since that time, small house over here on Main Street was purchased and stripped down to the frame, rebuilt entirely, And it just sold recently, I think for around $385,000. All the lots that were for sale in Old Town that had been there for multiple years are all sold. There are independent builders who are interested in any lot we have here in Old Town to do that all over again. We took part of that plan, we moved what our commercial, I'll say commercial area was intended for, which was under the south end of the hub, and moved that over to between Schoolhouse Road and 156, 30 some odd acres. Kidney shaped looking piece of land. And yes, we have had retail development people interested in that property. Now, they haven't gone the next step and set contracts that we know of or anything of that nature. But by virtue of what's happened here, it's just a matter of a couple of months of these lots selling and this house being built, and it's selling that fast. And the almost immediate retail development interest in that 30 some odd acres over there between 156 and Schoolhouse Road, it just gave us a good feeling that we probably made a good decision. So, just wanted to give you that report.
I'd also like to say one other thing. Today, in between the A board meeting and the B board meeting, I had a meeting in the boardroom back here with a person who contacted me several weeks ago. And the first project or the first area he wanted to look at, he said, tell me about the area between 156 and Schoolhouse Road. That's where we started our conversation. So I was able to share with him what our ideas and our plans are. I don't know if anything will ever come out of it, but it's a matter of planting seeds when people come in and talk to us. You know, what is the ambition of the city? What do we want? What do we want to see? And where do we want to see it? And those are the kind of things that we do on a daily basis.
I would just like to comment in this section that I think we as a board all understand that you guys do a tremendous amount of work in the background with people who call in interested in economic development in Haslett. But as of recent, nothing is being related to us on this report each month at our meeting. We're not getting that information, so we don't know what's going on. How can we be an efficient board without the information that we need?
Well,
I know there are things that you cannot say because...
And that's the real trick, is because, you know, if you start talking about a certain project and it gets out there, all of a sudden prices jump and people get cold feet. They don't want to talk to you anymore. I'd rather be quiet, listen, and talk to people, you know, on the side. But
let me say this. I'll go a step further. We don't have a choice. These conversations are in confidentiality. They involve money, and if we put it on that report, that becomes a public report. Is that what can happen? No, but what can happen? Yes, ma'am. That's enough information to tell the rest of the world where it is. Here's what I suggest, is that in the future, we will always have a executive session, and you may have one for tonight, that you can go in. Let me see, where's your agenda? Can you go into it tonight? Let me see. No, you can't. This 551071 requires the attorney to be here. And you would not be seeking his legal advice on this topic anyway. So in the future, we do have a choice under there about real property and project that we can have on there all the time that allows Mr. Swanky and/or myself to give you details, but it's held in confidence in executive session to keep you informed. I think that would be, what do you think of that?
I think that's an excellent idea.
Very
And I
good.
appreciate that coming forth with that.
That would solve that problem.
Yes, it would.
So the last meeting when Morris told us that there was a commercial project in the works, but he couldn't tell us, is that the same commercial project that showed up in the public engineers report for the Planning and Zoning Commission and for the City Council? Quick Trip. Okay, so then is Quick Trip an economic development interest, and is that something that we could have on our agenda as a part of our reports going forward? I'm sorry, I'm asking Mr. Schwenke. He works for the board, I believe. So it is out there in public knowledge now, and yet we cannot get the information about it. The engineer's doing some work on it. It's named, its location. Well, I agree it can be, but it is already out there in the public. So someone could have asked about it at those meetings and it would have been discussed. Well, the point is that I agree with Ruthie. We're not really working for the city right now. We're not doing anything. We're just being given a little bit of information when you want us to approve something. Is that part of your role, is to approve our agenda? I see. Were you aware of that, President and Vice President? That was not your ultimate responsibility? Are you aware now, or were you aware before this?
I was aware before.
I wasn't aware that that was ever the case in this board before this moment.
Okay, any other comments on the economic development? If not, we'll move on to 6.2, update regarding printed publication of the Hcedc Business Directory, and that's still being evaluated, no update at this point. Item number 7, executive session, we do not have one. Item number 9, consider an act regarding items to be placed on the next agenda. Does anyone have an item you'd like to see on the next agenda?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, is it possible that we can actually get some information on this directory? Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I know that it's been difficult for you to get all the information you need. Is there something that we can do to help you?
Not at this time, but I'll have more information to review the next meeting.
Is this something that needs to wait to the next budgeting period for this board?
No, it does not.
Yes, I was just going to ask and see if we might place on the agenda for the next meeting. At times, there isn't really anything for us to approve or discuss. And so I was going to ask and see if it's possible that we include on here a discussion next time to see about the frequency of our meeting. I've looked at a number of other cities in the area, and some cities meet quarterly, some cities meet every other month. Some cities have the meetings on their agenda, and if there's nothing, then they're canceled. So I was just wondering if we could put that up for discussion the next go around.
Okay, does anyone have anything else?
Just want to make sure that that executive session regarding real estate is added to the.
Very good. Any other?
Yes, we have one person.
Okay. If there's no other comments, then I call this meeting adjourned at 7:16.